and welcome to today's talk in the Self-Love and Self-Care Summit. Our self-love expert today is Carly Hamilton-Jones, here with help for any woman who's struggled with anxiety by showing her how to harness your power through your thoughts. Carly is a life and business coach who helps women make money doing what they love by showing them how to take their business idea and run with them through thought mastery and intuition. She has over 20 years experience coaching, mentoring, and teaching women how to create lasting change and lead purpose-driven lives. Carly, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm excited to get into our talk. The first question I want to ask you is from your perspective and your even your personal experience, why do you think self-love and self-care is especially challenging for women?
Yeah, well, I think that it's because we are conditioned to feel like doing and going and being busy and productivity is the way to succeed. And because of that, it's really hard for us to slow down, to stop, to give ourselves that love and space without feeling like we're missing something or we're going to actually slow ourselves down and not progress like we want to. That's what I find mostly, if I could sum it up.
I think that's true. I've definitely found that true myself, for sure. And, I've shared here that, my personal journey through anxiety was what led me to this work. And I know you have a similar experience as well. You dealt with a lot of with anxiety. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my anxiety started back in first grade. I fainted after watching a girl in my concert choir. So put yourself in Christmas concert in my elementary school. A girl behind me fainted, and I looked back and I was so terrified that I ended up getting my heart palpitated. I got so scared and I fainted right after her. I fainted in the front. I actually flailed to the front of the auditorium and had a seizure. So my glasses came off, and that was a very traumatic event for me. I didn't realize I was experiencing anxiety after that, but what ended up happening was I was so scared I developed an anxiety for fainting. And so this showed up in whenever I was going to the doctor's office or whenever I was at church with my family and I had to be still with my thoughts and my feelings, I'd start to panic. And sometimes I'd pass out, sometimes I wouldn't, but it was very traumatic.
Wow, it's just such a prime example of just this one event creating such a strong neurological connection. This feeling of a lack of control equals I've lost control, and then falling into fainting.
Yeah, and I didn't have a way to process it because I really didn't. My parents knew, they saw what was, they saw the fear, and they were worried that something was physically wrong with me. So I got tested and everything, but there was nothing else in terms of what to do to manage that anxiety. And it's no one's fault, especially back then. It was a while ago. But so I learned to avoid. So I would pull my hair, I would pinch myself. I didn't have the tools to really process that anxiety and breathe through it and be in that space and allow myself. So I did a lot of fleeing.
Yeah, stuck in that fear mode.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us more about that, because I think that's really relatable. I have these fears of either myself, my health, and something happening to me, or even just a fear of failing. Just in this state of fear, you're right. It's not like they teach us these tools in school. And unless you have this great example in your life of, oh, that's exactly how I show up to these situations. That's exactly how I can manage these fears. Without that example, you're stuck trying to figure it out for yourself. Just like you did, is it, maybe if I pinch or pull my hair, it'll keep me, present and give me a sense of control or something. So what did you learn through this process on how to move through fear?
So, yeah. And the thing is with the fainting, it's like, I actually was unconscious, right? So I developed this really deep sense of dying and death, and really what it comes down to at the deepest level. And that manifested over the years in terms of a fear of driving on a highway and fainting and dying. And then it went into, as I get even older, it went into health anxiety and worrying about every little symptom. And I was able to actually manifest ailments from fear. So what ended up happening was I realized at one point when I was in my early 40s, my kids had gone away to school. They were all in school, and I was with myself. So I had done everything up until that point to distract myself. And, to everybody on the outside, I looked perfectly happy. And, I was, to an extent. I had 3 kids. I lived in a nice house. I had gone to college. I got my master's. So I checked off all the boxes. But a lot of that was in a distraction space where I had never really learned how to manage this anxiety and fear. And then at one point, it kind of culminated to my early 40s, which I find a lot of times happens, right? We're in that state of like, okay, we're 40. And now what? I was stuck with myself, and I realized I wasn't that happy. I was always overthinking and overanalyzing and worrying and so scared to really be living my life that I took a deep step. I was forced to take a deep step. I wanted to let go. I remember being at the bus stop and just looking at the trees and watching this one leaf fall and say, oh, how do I let go of all of this anxiety and this fear? If I could just figure it out, So then I went and read books and really immersed myself in this personal development. And what I realized was that, oh my God, this whole time I have been I've manifested my fainting and these symptoms with my thoughts alone. Imagine what I can do if I can really harness this power. And that started by, and this is really what I learned, and that takeaway I would give to anybody is when you're wanting to let go, and you know this, Sandy, it's about really leaning in, right? And it's counterintuitive. And I had to learn that for myself, to lean in instead of let go and really feel the feelings, process the fear, process my anxiety, and come to terms with things I had been avoiding for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That leaning in, it's so paradoxical. It's like we feel this discomfort, and our natural inclination is to avoid it, to step back, to run away, to hide from it, to numb it, to distract ourselves, because it's uncomfortable, and our brains are programmed to, discomfort equals bad, go away.
Yeah.
But just like you dealt with, and I've dealt with the same thing, having been through my own journey, and that running away, that, oh my God, I hate this, I don't like this, I don't want to experience this, turns that pain and discomfort that you're experiencing into suffering. Which is why I think, did we do this before? And I show you why I keep this at my desk?
No.
I always keep one of these on my desk, and it's the perfect metaphor, I think, for exactly what we're talking about, is this discomfort, this feeling trapped, this, life serves something up that's either creating pain or discomfort. And our inclination is to go, I want to get out of here. I don't like it, but it's squeezing my fingers tight, and it's uncomfortable, and I'm stuck here even longer as I'm pulling.
Yes.
And so this paradoxical acceptance of leaning into it is just saying, okay, this is a moment of discomfort. I'm going to allow this to happen. I give it permission to be here. I don't particularly care for it, but this is what's happening right now. And when you release that resistance, it gives you enough wiggle room to make change. It gives you enough space from it, which is exactly why meditation has been proven time and time again to reduce chronic pain. It doesn't change the formation of your back to make the back pain go away, but it changes your relationship to that pain, which I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah. And I will say, when I hear you talk, and it's taking me back to when I really started working on all of this with a coach, and the shame that comes with like opening up and expressing the pain that and the fear that you have been dealing with. And that's the hardest part is seeing that shame come up and moving through it and feeling it. And I think that we oftentimes think that it's going to be this long drawn out process that we don't have time for, and it feels so vulnerable and we don't want to get into it because we're going to get deeper in it. And if anyone's watching this and feeling that way, it doesn't have to take as long as we think it's going to take. It actually speeds up our process of growth and transformation, which again, counterintuitive, right?
So much. I love that. It's such a great reminder too. And this topic of shame, I love that it keeps coming up, because that's one of the reasons why we put this summit together. And I have people just like you coming on to share these relatable stories that so many of us deal with, but we don't talk about. When we have imposter syndrome, we don't go and tell everybody, hey, guess what? I think that I suck at my job and everyone's going to figure it out. You're probably going to fire me. No, we keep it to ourselves. And therefore that isolation breeds shame. It takes out of the equation this realization of the shared human experience in our pain or discomfort or missteps and these negative thoughts that we hear in our heads, how prevalent it really is, especially among women, but in our society in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And we go on living thinking we're the only ones. Yeah.
And we're not, and we're here to prove that too. So I love this. And I want to hear a little more about the process that you use to move through that anxiety.
Yes. I hired my first coach. So I tried everything. I said, I read books. I was listening to podcasts. I talked to my primary care physician. I tried biofeedback. I wanted to do all of it. And what really helped was, the first thing I did was I found a coach who worked with EFT. Do tapping at all?
When I was more in the thick of my anxiety and more towards the tail end of it as I'm on my way out, but you're still experiencing the discomfort, the physiological sensations of the anxiety. Even if you're able to manage your relationship with your thoughts, there's still that icky feeling with the cortisol and the adrenaline in your body. And I did come to EFT to practice that, especially, to help kind of just calm my nerves, to help me fall asleep. And I did find it very helpful through that.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's called emotional freedom technique. And what it really does is calm down your nerves by touching on your pressure points. That's all. But the point being is that's how I started, which was really to kind of calm myself down and to walk through my fear and leaning into it, like I said before, and really just allowing myself to feel the emotions, to be in the fear, and to lean in rather than wanting to flee, really leaning into it. And then I started to look at the thoughts, notice my thoughts, which was a huge realization around that same time, where I was like, oh my God, I am not my thoughts and my thoughts are not me, which means I have control over what I'm thinking. And this is a process that I work on every day, is creating the thoughts that I want to think. And a lot of what I do with my clients is showing them their own thoughts and replaying them through their eyes and seeing how they can shift them to create what they really want.
Yeah.
It sounds simplified, but I mean, that's basically what it is. It's just practicing that.
Yeah. It's simple. It may not necessarily be easy at first, but it is pretty simple. And the fact that it's not easy is because it's just not something that we practice normally. But yeah. I love that you're calling attention to this, because so often these fears and these anxieties, they manifest from these thoughts, but we're not used to shining the light back in to see, okay, let's bring it to the foreground. Exactly what it is I'm thinking. What am I afraid of? Why am I feeling defensive? Or why am I doing this? To figure out what's the story that I'm telling myself, because otherwise that thought is there and it's triggering the anxiety and it's triggering the behaviors, but it's kind of just mulling around in the subconscious background. And until you actually do this work, the process that you're just describing, it just it's still creating the anxiety, but we can't do anything with it until we actually bring it up and look at it and say, oh, this is it. Obviously, I feel anxious because I'm telling myself that I'm doing a terrible job and that awful things are going to happen. I mean, that's incredibly demotivating and fear inducing. Of course,
Yeah.
that's why I'm reacting this way.
But we live on that autopilot. And so it's really hard to recognize that we're creating the thoughts, right? Because a lot of times I think that we think that if we just don't think them, right, they're going to go away or we're going to be able to deal, but they're there, like you're saying.
Exactly. Like, like trying to clean up your house by putting everything in the closet.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
didn't really clean up the house. Your closet's just a mess and it's still there waiting for you.
Right.
I think it comes down to the concept of you are not your thoughts. And I remember the first time that I heard that when I was on my journey out of anxiety. And the first time I heard it, I thought, okay, that makes no sense. If I'm not my thoughts, then who am I? Like, I don't get it. Now I have my own ways of explaining that. I'd love to hear your perspective on how you explain to somebody who this concept is relatively new to, what that really means, that you are not your thoughts.
So I like to think of it as almost like a best friend in your head that is having this conversation and means well, but is not doing a good job expressing it. So any of the chatter that you hear is really not you. It's this voice. It's almost like if you can, I like to personify it as someone else talking to you. Basically, every single thing that goes on in your head is not really you. It's someone else. And I like to think of it as like your best friend talking to you with horrible communication skills, trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you where you are and keep your patterns continuing on no matter what, to make sure that you do not move outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, you hit on a couple really important things there that I love to talk about. And for one thing, I think you're kind of taking like a roundabout way of describing what people tend to call self-sabotage. And they say, I'm my own worst enemy. I'm out to get myself. And I love the perspective of, you're not out to get yourself. You're not self-sabotaging, because that voice that you're hearing, those words that you're hearing, which is, I think it's the distinction between, these are neurons firing from your brain doing what brains do, which is think, just like your eyes see, your nose smells, your ears hear, your brain thinks, but that's not you. There's a you that can drive those thoughts. And if you're not driving those thoughts, then you're on autopilot and they're just kind of neurons firing. And I like, that's kind of a pretty cold, like scientific way of thinking of it. I like your perspective of it's really just, a voice, just a friend inside of you, but it's not self-sabotage. It's really, there's a positive intent behind it, which is I want you to either, push yourself to do better, or I want to keep you safe. It's just, that's such a great way of putting it. Poor communication skills. I always think of it as, they're just using the wrong words to help get you there.
Right. Because, there's been, people talk about gremlins or, it's not that, right? It does come down to the science behind it. And I always think of, like, I try to explain to my clients, like, imagine going to the grocery store the same way every single time. Your brain is just so used to going that way. And your brain likes to conserve energy by staying in that route, even though there's a better route somewhere else that might take you on a different path. So hard to go that way when we've gone the same way for so long, to break that habit. When your brain's like, no, just go this way. This is great. This is fine. You'll be fine. That way could be scary or dangerous, or you could mess up or fail.
Yeah, our brains, they love habits because it literally burns calories to think. Like if you remember being back in school, and it was just mentally exhausting, a day of learning, because thinking, it burns calories, and it's tiring, it's exhausting. So your brain loves habits because they're stored in this back part of the brain that is just, it's like a program that, okay, I get in my car to drive to work. It's like the brain just has to hit the play button and then everything happens automatically and you end up at work. Yeah. Or, you need to speak at a meeting, your brain's just going to hit play and run
Right.
this script that, you're going to mess this up. You might not say the right things, anybody can do this better than you. It hits that play button because it's efficient. It's not the best way about it. So I think what you're getting at is this like concept of, one, you got to recognize, what are these thoughts? Like, what are those programs that the brain is hitting play and just running, and bring it to the foreground so you can actually do something with it.
Yes.
And yeah, taking control and finding your power by finding those thoughts that are going to motivate you in the right way to get things done, or finding that voice that basically the way you talk to other people and say, yeah, I know you're going through a hard time. That really sucks. And I'm sorry. The voice that you use to other people, you can use it on yourself. We don't realize that we can talk that way to ourselves too, the same compassionate, kind, and supportive way that we talk to other people.
Absolutely.
So, there's definitely someone watching this who is getting inspired and is getting these tools and seeing the framework for identifying that, okay, it's not that you're not good enough. It's not that you're going to fail. It's not that you have no control of your body and you're going to, get sick and die. That it's these thoughts that are coming up. That's what you need to identify and work with. And I think what you shared is incredibly helpful and powerful. But I know that there's somebody watching that still has that feeling, that she hears that voice of, you know what, you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, or you're not likable, whatever that voice is saying. And she believes it. She so still is stuck identifying with that thought and believes it as truth. What's your best advice for her? What do you say to her?
Yeah. And it would probably present itself in something like, this doesn't apply to me, right? Like, or, oh, I can see how that would be good for everybody else, but not me, right? I'm too broken. I'm too something, because that I've done that a lot, right? So I'm here to say that I have felt that same way. Like, I'm not fixable, and I want to say, notice. Just start by baby steps, looking at your thoughts and spending even just like 5 minutes checking in once a day and saying, wait, what am I thinking? And I think that's where it really begins, as baby steps, and starting to notice and begin to say, hey, maybe, just maybe, this isn't about me. Maybe this is about my brain and my thoughts.
I love that.
Being curious and open to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good, practical, and sustainable advice, because we, the women come to me, and I'm sure they come to you too, saying, I want to be more confident. And you're not going to go from this state of anxious and worried that you're not good enough, and worried what other people are thinking of you, and overthinking and trying to control every little thing. You're not going to go from that to instantly confident. There's no like one liner that is going to get you from here to there. That first step is what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is really, even without changing anything, to bring this mindful awareness to, what am I thinking? What is this voice? What do I hear? It's not even adding any extra time to your day, which I think is something that people worry about, is, do I even have the time for self-improvement? But it's this reflection of, okay, I got super angry when I got home. Well, what am I thinking? Oh, the house has to be perfect when I get home? Or, I get really afraid to drive to, see my family in the other state. Well, what am I telling myself here that I don't have control over?
And I would say, to add to that, show up every day trying. And I know for me, what happened was, I decided I was going to get curious, because I didn't like where I was. I wanted to change, and I didn't know how. So I thought, what would it hurt to try? Like, it can't hurt. It can only help at this point. And so when you go about and you're trying and you feel discouraged or frustrated, like it's not working, know that that's part of the process too. And showing up, just trying every day until it becomes more of a habit.
So important to point out that it was part of this growth journey. It's not going to instantly make you feel miraculous confident, that it's not instantly going to change your habits, that if you want to create sustainable new habits, it's doing that work little by little, day by day. Because what I see is it comes down to two things. One, what are those limiting beliefs about yourself, the things that you're hearing that you're actually believing? And so that first step of what's the story I'm telling myself is what you're getting at. But actually stick to it to create this new habit, to make it your new default, so that when your brain hits the play button, it's the play button you want it to press.
Yes. And I don't know about you. I'm assuming that you probably too, but I do thought work every day. So it's a lifestyle change too. It's something that I do, because when I'm not conscious about it, I will always go back to default thoughts. And it might not be about the same thoughts I was thinking. Well, it isn't about the same thoughts I was thinking 5 years ago when I started this journey. But now there are new thoughts that come up every time I reach out and transform and grow. More thoughts come up. So I'm always working on it. But it's fun.
I'm so glad you said that though, too, because I think coming from, say, a diet culture where we think, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds. So for this period of time, I am going to work towards losing that weight. And then I'm going to go back to the way I was. So it's not sustainable. It might get you that immediate growth, or that, well, in the diet case is the opposite, that immediate results in weight loss. But what we're talking about here is really a shift in lifestyle. And that's, changing how you show up and how you examine what's going on in here. And I can attest to that as well, that it wasn't just a one and done, do this work to stop being anxious every day, but it's this continual, like, no, I have these tools and I need to use them. I mean, I'm a human. I fall back on old habits. Anytime I'm tired or stressed or super hungry and I need a Snickers, you fall back on those old habits. For me, it's, kind of jumping to anger and defensiveness, like super easy. And so, that's my red flag. Okay. Hey, this is time to use some of these tools and do a little inner work. What is it you're actually thinking that's creating this response?
Yeah, exactly.
This has been amazing. I love it. I want to hear a little more about the daily dose that you have for our viewers.
Sure. I created a daily dose for people who have a hard time squeezing in any time for themselves. And I made it very short. It takes less than 5 minutes. It's 5 questions just to ask yourself in the morning before you kind of pick up the phone, before you start reacting to life and obligations and all of that, to get in the habit, the process, like we're saying, habit and process of thinking about what you want to think and what you want to feel, and creating that intention before you even start the day. Whether or not you maintain it the entire day, which is probably unlikely for all humans, but to just have that, start that habit right now of creating that. It's so simple and it's super easy, and it's the beginning.
I think that sounds amazing. You want to check that out. There's a link down below to check out the daily dose so that you can start implementing this tool, and quick and easy. I mean, that's a great plug for a tool that's really going to make some pivotal changes.
Yeah, it's like me giving you a toothbrush.
So easy. It doesn't take much time, and that's what we're looking for. I want change, and I don't want it to take up too much time. So check out the daily dose. Check out that link below. Carly, thank you so much for being here. I think you had such a relatable story that's going to resonate with so many women, and some really practical and sustainable advice for how do we start relating to this voice that I'm hearing a little bit differently.
Thanks, Sandy. I love sharing my story and helping others. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.